and welcome to Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. Today we're talking to three people who are on the front lines of an issue that we see every day, but very often most of us just walk by and don't engage with. And that's the people who are on the streets, unhoused or otherwise struggling with life-threatening situations. And they get the help from people like the three individuals we have on the air today. They're going to talk to us about what's happening on the streets, the good work they're doing, how we can help them, and what the big issues are right now. Phil Costello's been here before. He's the clinical director for the Greater New Haven Healthcare for the Homeless at Cornell Scott Hill Health. We will only say this once all hour. They call him Dr. Phil, but he's not a doctor, and he doesn't like it, but they still call him Dr. Phil. And there's really nothing you can do about it, right, Phil? I think you've kind of accepted it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Claudette Kidd is a client engagement specialist for the Downtown Evening Soup Kitchen, which has emerged as one of the great, really strong institutions in town, expanding what they do to help people navigating social service systems, getting fed, hanging out in the cold weather. And Emma Lowe is the clinical director of Street Medicine Team, community for the Connecticut Mental Health Center, CMHC. So also a founding member of the Street Medicine Team. What is the Street Medicine Team?
So we are a street psych specific team. So we do mental health care for people on the streets, trying to bring people access to both mental health treatment, including medications and therapy, as well as substance use disorder treatment out to people who wouldn't otherwise get it in a clinic setting.
So you're kind of like Phil, because Phil does that at Hill Health. He goes around town where there are homeless encampments, where people are hanging out, and you're not arresting them, obviously, you're not getting them in trouble. You're saying, what do you need? I mean, I've loved, so much has been written about Phil where he can kind of tell you have sores on your body or something about the way you're breathing, remembered something about what was going on in their life and what kind of medicine they could get or help them get an appointment they want to get or some kind of public assistance they couldn't get. Is that similar with what you're doing?
Yeah, we like to think of ourselves as kind of like the psych component to Phil's team. Even though we're different agencies, we kind of complement one another.
It's like we're the plumbers and they're the electricians.
Oh, that's
we build
good.
the house together.
That's good. And do you go out together on your dreams?
We do. Sometimes we kind of
At
co-locate certain times, and other times we just make referrals to one another, depending on the needs.
And then obviously a lot of places you find people who need the help are right at the Downtown Evening Soup Kitchen in recent years. They've gotten the building on State Street, which is now a drop-in center. Now it's several stories that they're renovating. It's not just the meals, which are a big deal that they line up for. And Claudette, you're the client engagement specialist. What does that mean? Do you mean you go there on the line for the food and at the drop-in center and ask people what they need?
That's a new position that they just started. I started there in April.
Uh-huh.
And what it is, I go out and meet people where they're at and give them resources, help, referrals to whatever they need. I also go out with Phil. I go out with Emma's team as well, out in the field, and talk to them, referrals, help them where they're at, get them on the housing list for shelter if they need shelter, give them food, give them clothing, give them tents, just go out on a weekly basis, just doing what I can to sort of fulfill their needs.
And you've been doing that since April, though you've done work with the hungry, especially for years. It's not like you're new to this world.
Yes.
Emma, how long have you been doing this?
I got engaged with this work in, I would say, 2007.
Oh, wow.
When I met a hero of street medicine, Dr. Jim Withers, through my undergrad experience, and had the fortune of working with him for over a year and learning what the art of street medicine was. And I was just very enthralled by this and have sort of since taken that to be my career path. And
what is the art of street medicine?
So I learned at that time, I was still in college and was doing portraits of people on the streets, engaging with them, and I had no real skills, just like
portraits, meaning photos, skills. Drawing?
I was doing drawings and oil paintings. I even did a sculpture and was just getting to know people and trying to humanize them, because these were faces of people that most people would just walk by and ignore, and no one had ever really asked them to draw their picture. And so I was coming at it from this artistic frame of mind, and then I met Dr. Withers, who was doing street medicine in Pittsburgh, and he let me follow him around for a few weeks, and then I was just hooked, seeing how he would go out to people literally under a bridge on the sidewalk and just really be with them and offer them medical care, build relationships with them, and just really show them that they're dignified human beings and they deserve the treatment that everyone else gets, and just making people visible that would otherwise not be.
Phil's kind of visible, starting with the a bunch of years ago when there was, what was it, 2018, when you had the K2 poisonings on the green, when some bad bats came out of the lab and came up from Bridgeport and people were collapsing all day, and we found out you were the person that kind of worked with people. What do you see these days? We were just talking before we're on the air, because you're kind of the people hear the information first. You're the canaries, right?
Yeah.
You said something was going on this weekend in Fairhaven with the Kia Boys, which is the loose group in each town of people go on social media, teens. They steal the Kia cars. But you said they're not just stealing cars.
No, we've noticed a trend in the last couple of weeks where a group of kids will pull up next to a homeless person sleeping on the street and attack them. And actually beat them, have physical injuries. There isn't any rhyme or reason, and the attacks seem to be random on whoever is on the street at night. A lot of times these people are just sleeping and they get attacked in their sleeping bags.
On the street?
Yeah.
Are people like on the street sidewalk sleeping?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not just like in courtyards and in encampments?
No.
Like what street did this happen on in Fairhaven?
It's happened, there was 6, I think, in the last, as of Friday, there was 6 that we knew. The most recent was over on River Street, where a group of our undocumented homeless were staying, and they came out and attacked them.
So documented homeless were staying in what, just on the sidewalk?
On the sidewalk.
How many?
6, I think.
So undocumented from where?
Not gonna.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't. Ask.
But how'd you find out about it, Phil?
So they tell me they come with their wounds. So just Friday alone, we had to handle 2 bruises on their
But
heads.
where did you encounter them?
They came when we were walking on Ferry Street, when we were walking on State Street.
Daytime, nighttime?
It happened at night and early morning.
And you ran into them when?
We ran into them Friday morning around 10 o'clock.
And you were walking on Ferry and State?
Ferry and State.
And
yeah.
2 people came up to you?
This week it was 2, and then over the course of the last 2 weeks, there had been 4 others.
And what did the 2 people show you? Where were they bruised? What did they tell you?
Top of their head, big gash in their head, their eye, a black eye. Basically, they're just getting out and punching them a few times and then jumping back in the car.
And are they filming it? Because usually Kia Boys do this to be putting it on social media.
I kind of suspect that, but nobody has actually jumped out and said they were filming it.
So what did you do? What kind of care did you give them?
So
do you have stuff with you?
Basically, the homeless really don't want to talk to the police, so nobody is reporting this. But I've tried to encourage them, first of all, to maybe at least use the anonymous line and try to assist them so that at least there is some documentation in our system that this is happening. But so far I haven't had any takers.
No, but did you give them medical care on the scene?
Of course, yeah.
So do you go around with a van? You have medical supplies?
So we...
and we being a group of people?
Yeah, it's my team. My team is amazing. We have a medical case manager, typically a nurse or an MA that comes out with me. And then sometimes we have volunteers as well.
So how many were with you that day?
4.
And what hours do you do?
So Fairhaven, we do 6:30 to 11, and we walk the streets, and then we have the van parked where the shower is, the power shower.
Oh, I love the power shower. That's the nonprofit that sometimes sits up in the green. It really makes a difference for people. Just take a shower.
Yeah.
It's nice.
So tonight will be from 2:30 to 5. We'll be walking in the Ville.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Not this afternoon.
This afternoon, rather.
Okay.
2:30 to 5 in the Ville. Or I'm sorry, that's tomorrow night. Tonight we go from 4 to 7 and we walk the hill.
So you saw these guys? Were there guys?
I didn't see the Kia Boys.
No, were they
themselves.
males who were hurt?
Oh, they were males. Yeah.
And did you bring them to the van?
Oh, the male. Excuse me. The males that were hurt came to us and said, "Hey, look at this. Look at my eye. I can't see out of it." I heard there were females that were getting attacked as well, but
what I meant is,
didn't
what kind of
engage
care
them.
did you give them there? Did you go to another site, or
No, we bandaged them right there, and then just made sure that they were thinking okay, and they didn't have any signs of
And then you
lingering
said you also
head
took
injury.
steps to try to prevent it. You called one of the police officers?
Yeah, we called my contact all the time has been Lieutenant Fumiati. He's been a big advocate for trying to treat the homeless with respect. I like to think like the Camden model, but he has been a wonderful advocate.
So
for
can the
that.
police do anything on this? Are they?
Well, they're just finding out about it. But
so this
I
is a
think
new
the
thing.
hard part is nobody's reporting it. After 4 weeks of this happening, this is like the first time they're hearing about it.
What other, Claudette, what other big issues are you seeing out on the street? What are people wrestling with these days they need the most help with when you're hanging?
Food insecurity. They're hungry. A lot of them don't have tents to sleep in, so we provide tents for them. We provide blankets. We provide personal care items for them as well.
I'm going to ask you to come close to the mic if you don't mind. Yeah,
Is this close enough?
that's perfect.
Okay. And a lot of them don't have IDs, birth certificates, things like that. So I help them with that as well. I also I take their information. We fill out a form, take all of the information that we can, take their history of how long they've been homeless, etc., when they were last officially housed, and then put them into the system so they can go on the shelter wait list, which is quite a long list. And also there's a priority as well, because there's some people who have major ailments that are going on and really shouldn't be sleeping out there.
Now, do you go out looking for folks? Do you, when they come to your drop-in center or when they come to the soup kitchen? When do you encounter folks?
All of the above, what you've just mentioned. Like, I go out with Phil once a week when he comes to the site. I go out with Emma's team as well. We go out in, where is it we go to? We drive around in Fairhaven, wherever the need is, because we have weekly meetings and information is brought to our attention, and then we go and meet those people where they're at and attend to their needs. We go there non-judgmental. We're there to take care of them and address whatever situation is going on and build trust with them.
Can you think of an encounter you've had in recent weeks or since you've gone on since April? A story about someone you encountered and was able to help or pointed out to you the challenge that you're dealing with?
Yeah, I can talk about a gentleman that Phil referred me to, actually. He's a cancer patient, stage 4 cancer, and was sleeping downtown behind the church and was in really bad condition.
One of the churches on the green?
Yeah, one of the churches on the green. And through Phil bringing him to my attention, I took it upon myself to advocate for him to be housed. Unfortunately, he became ill and went to the hospital, which was a good thing because then he's not outside in the elements. He's sleeping in the bed and everything. And from the hospital, he went into rehab. Once he was in rehab, I got in touch with the VA because he was a vet. And Michelle there, she helped me when he was about to be discharged to get into permanent housing.
So were you keeping track? Okay, he's going to be back on the street now. You're concerned to be back on the street?
He's not back on the street. He is permanently housed now.
Where'd
so
you
that
find
is
that?
one of my success stories.
And was it down on State Street or where like a block from you guys? You got the Liberty housing?
No, this was through the veterans, the VAs, because he was a vet. And so with that referral to the VA, he got housed. So he's housed, where is he housed? In West Haven. And he's housed in a place where he's getting full services, rehabilitation. If he needs assistance for anything, it's like a support service for him. So all his needs are being addressed. He's going to be fed and he's well taken care of. So no
folks,
more on
the
the
three
street.
of you, what are you seeing on the street these days? Are there more homelessness than there was? I mean, we've had homelessness a consistent issue. We're reading a lot. We saw all these homeless encampments in the last year that suggested we might be like other cities seeing an increase in homeless. I don't know if it's true or not. What do you folks
Train
say?
station.
We see a good number of people on the street, a lot more than in the past.
Like since when?
Since COVID,
Now, at the beginning of COVID, were there more out, or were people getting a lot of help during COVID?
there was through COVID, it pretty much it didn't seem to change through COVID, but before COVID, there was a lot out, but it seems like there's a lot more than there was pre-COVID.
And were we talking about the last year, last 2 years?
Gradually building up.
Like, are there
since
hundreds
COVID.
of homeless people in
At
the
least
thousands?
at least 250 to 400 people on the street.
And there used
in
to
the
be
Greater New
fewer?
Haven area. Yeah.
Greater New Haven suburbs too?
Suburbs too, yeah.
Okay.
You
Now-
got to understand, a lot of people are being evicted as well. And with the increase of evictions and people not having good credit to get apartments and everything, it's having a big effect. And so people are living on the streets.
I did want to ask you about that, Claudette, because there are a number of factors. So during COVID, I felt the one good thing about COVID is that we had momentary socialism. That both parties in Congress said we're not going to let people get thrown out of their houses, and their kids aren't going to starve. And for 5 minutes, we actually had moratoriums on evictions. We had extra aid, not just government but private, for food. Is part of the increase in homelessness the evaporation of those couple of years of help? Like, were those evictions kind of stored up and ready to hit?
So
It's not only that.
it's not only that. Gentrification is a huge part of it, and part of that is our people were the housing was kind of like a temporary measure during that time, and so the funding that was happening it has not been escalating with the cost of living or the cost.
So you're talking
of
about
rents.
rising rents?
So rising rents. So
because I don't think we have fewer affordable housing units than we used to. But are the rents going up at the Section 8 housing?
Right. So the problem you have is that the rents, these landlords are finding that they can make $200 or $300 more than they're actually getting for the person that was homeless and housed. And so what they're doing is they're finding any excuse to evict them, because then they can, raise
And evictions are up.
Evictions on our people are up sky high because of that, because they can then turn the apartment around and get a lot more money from it from somebody else.
What we've been seeing too is that a lot of people get some of the services, like they get vouchers, which means that they get supportive housing, basically like a coupon saying you will pay only 30% of your rent, or whatever your income is, towards your rent, and this voucher will pay the rest, which is amazing. But a lot of people they can qualify if they have income or not. But if they have a disability income, it would come out of that. But if their income is zero, it's actually 0%, 30% of zero. But the problem is people are holding on to those vouchers for sometimes months or even years, because there's not any apartments to use those vouchers for, because the rents have gone above the qualification of the voucher. The landlords are starting to do background checks, and that often disqualifies a lot of our clients, unfortunately.
And we're talking with the street teams, Emma Lowe, Claudette Kidd, and Phil Costello, the people from Cornell Scott Hill Health, the Downtown Evening Soup Kitchen, and Connecticut Mental Health Center, who are out every day with their colleagues trying to help people who are navigating life on the streets. So we talked about how when Phil was last in was the K2 episode. What was that, 2018?
I think it was. Yeah.
So what's the drug situation? We read a lot about opioids, how fentanyl came and was so much more addictive that was causing an increase in overdoses. At least nationally, that's plateaued. But now there's a new drug. What was I keep forgetting the name of it. Xylazine, where they say it's like 100 times more addictive than fentanyl, which was like 100 times more than heroin. Or
that might be
That's
carfentanil.
Yeah, tell me, what is carfentanil? Is that out there?
Carfentanil is like, if fentanyl was a half a teaspoon, carfentanil would be like 2 grains for the same amount.
And are you seeing it on the street here?
We haven't seen it. There's an amazing program that Yale School of Medicine, their community health van, runs, where they collect samples of drugs being sold in New Haven through the needle exchange, and then they put them in an electron scanning microscope, and they can tell you what is exactly in there. And there's a barcode, and that is published every week with the latest bags, the labels, and what's in them.
Where do you find that?
It's called the Stash Alert, and you can find that at 270 Congress. That's the Yale Community Health Van and Needle Exchange there.
And they put that online?
And they have it online as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's an
So what are we
excellent
finding out?
resource.
So the carfentanil's not here yet. Is
So
it coming?
What we're finding out is that 100% of the supply as of 3 months ago, 100% of the supply in New Haven was fentanyl.
Really,
There was-
100%.
There was no heroin.
It's
it was
gone.
like gone.
It's just so much cheaper and easier for the
For the
cartels
fentanyl.
to move. Yeah. And-
Hartford still had one source, I think, because they test too, where you could buy actual heroin instead of fentanyl. Most of the stuff is a blend between carfentanil, and heroin. It's just kind of all mixed together. But there's always fentanyl. Sometimes there may be carfentanil in it.
So now you folks must
But-
have an interesting perspective on fentanyl. So for the outsiders, the politicians, the journalists, you say, boy, this stuff's so addictive. People are getting, the problem is we got to stop the fentanyl from getting in. You hear Republicans talking about immigration. But is demand or supply the issue when you're dealing with people?
I think demand. I think when you have such poverty, there's always going to be a supply. And
So are you folks dealing with the demand, or are you folks sort of the first level to help people get help with the demand?
we're at the stop the bleeding stage.
Yeah.
Here's some Narcan, or in a given year, I'll do Narcan on somebody maybe 3 or 4 times in a year. Just being on the street. Go ahead.
How about both of you?
I guess I might have a different way of looking at it too, which is from the mental health perspective. I'm seeing just so much trauma and loneliness, isolation. People that have been estranged from their families have really no supports, and most of the people in their lives have abandoned them or misused them, even abused them and hurt them. And a lot of times, people's first instinct is to help numb that feeling, numb that pain. And oftentimes it doesn't start with fentanyl. It starts with oxycodone or a pill addiction. But a lot of times that, over the course of months to years can lead to the street drugs, which end up being cheaper and certainly more dangerous. But underlying a lot of what the addiction that we see on the outside is this very pervasive amount of lifelong trauma.
Now we've always had that, right? We've always had drug addiction, street drugs, people who have sad things happening in their lives and not having supports. Is that also something that's on the increase? And if so, what do you think is propelling it? Is it the drugs themselves? Is it isolation of social pressures in society, like Chris Murphy's been talking about?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above, and just I think our society pushes for so much individualism that people are really isolated. There's not a lot of pressure to help the neighbor. And
well, you mentioned
human with
oxycodone.
each other.
I don't know how much this is still true since they first were suing the Sacklers at Big Pharma, when they said that we try to treat so much with pills now because advances in science, and less with talk therapy or fundamental conditions that are leading to poverty and addiction. Is any of that coming into play where people get hooked on pills legally and then are ending up on the street?
In terms of the opiates, that's basically dried up with the big effort to turn that around.
But some people have started that way many years ago when that
I see. So that has
Yeah.
helped. They have
That
really
has-
gotten into
that
That's
part
good to
is
know. See, there are probably,
help.
and I think about that. I think about how you folks avoid burnout, because like you see sad stuff every day, right? And I'm sure you have repeat customers. It's not like you solve everybody's problems. Like the one story you tell, I'm betting there are 10 that don't turn out that way, right? A person's back on the
There's
street.
quite a few who don't turn out like that. And like at work, we're encouraged to take time off and do self-care, take care of ourselves, because sometimes we internalize it. Because like there's only so much we can do, right?
You must be frustrated. Like, I'm trying to help you.
Yeah,
I care
because you
about
want to
you.
do it, and like we're going home to our houses, to our beds, having a meal and everything, and they're out there on the streets.
Well, I was
you
wondering
know?
how you react to a positive development. Like Phil just gave an example that we
Mhm.
had this problem where doctors were incentivized to get people hooked on these powerful painkillers.
Mm.
They can't get off, and he said that problem's has been stopped largely. Now you have new problems with the greater potency of the drugs. Do you see those advances as like some reason to have hope and keep doing your work because you can solve problems, or do you feel like there's always going to be a new problem that steps in because poverty and isolation and addiction are universal, timeless problems?
There's always hope. That's why I do what I do. There's always hope.
And is it always the person you see you've made a difference for that keeps you going?
Yeah.
Do you have a
Just
story?
one person will keep me going. I've been homeless myself, So I have that lived experience, so I know what it's like. I haven't been on the streets, but I was in a shelter, so I know what it's like. I know how it feels mentally and draining you and everything. So like I
loved reading
identify
about
what
your
they're
story.
going through.
Laura Gillespie wrote a story years ago how you became a big advocate in town for the people facing food insecurity. And now you have this position where you're really doing a lot of great work. And what got you there, Claudette? What do you think when you look at your own story? What do you take from that in terms of what you're bringing to other people?
Well, like Emma said, a lot of people out there, they're invisible to the community. They walk past them, whatever, they're nothing. They're at the bottom of their list, and we want to make them visible and let them have a voice and let people know that like they're human too, and we can help them. And this is what we're doing. We're identifying a need for them. And like where I work right now at desk, we're trying to sort of like bring them up, and to a level where they can do for themselves.
And do you remember anything that made a difference for you that gave you an idea for how you can make a difference for other folks?
Yeah, Meryl Eden at Mothers and Others for Justice, when she came to the shelter.
And it was on Ferry Street, correct?
Yeah, when she came there and talked about the advocacy work that she does and still doing, and she introduced me to Robin Porter, and
The state
then to
representative.
Gary Winfield, and
Senator, yeah.
then to Senator Rooney. And with them behind me, they helped advocate for me to get out of the shelter. With success, I did. I'm still in that same home right now. And because they helped me, it encouraged me to help others.
Mm-hmm. And Emma, look, can you tell me about a day recently you've had a job where you said, this shows me that it's worth it? Has ever made a difference for somebody?
Yeah, I totally agree with Claudette, and it really does keep you going. I think that doing this for a number of years now, I've been with CMHC during my training and then officially since 2019 in this role. And just sometimes it takes really a lot of faith and believing in people. I've had people, I'll just tell the story of this one gentleman. I first met him actually at desk, and he was an elderly man who was very, very irritable, very intoxicated. Probably one of the most difficult people. If you were to say like to a hospital, what's the most difficult patient here? It would be him. He would go every day pretty much swearing at people, cursing, threatening suicide.
Was it schizophrenic? Or?
It was questionable what the diagnosis was. His chart would say schizoaffective disorder, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, alcohol, substance-induced, everything, which to us, that means kind of like no one knows. So I met him, and he was wielding a curtain rod at people, and not to me, but just sort of like in a, I'm tough, like don't bother me, was intoxicated. And then as he walked away, said, I kill you, I kill myself. And he just walked away, and he did this gun, like pew pew thing. And we were like, oh gosh, like what do we do now? Like,
And what did
we're
you
supposed
do?
to chase him down. And so I think I had all these thoughts, like from a medical perspective, he's like, is he harm to himself? Is he harm to others? Like, what's the real threat? And I came to realize, I think, thankfully we didn't go after him and call the police and like bring him to, I don't think that would have been therapeutic for him. And I think what he was really saying was that I'm really hurting inside, and I need to show everyone that I'm tough, and otherwise people will destroy me and harm me. So that was his defense mechanism to make sure that people didn't. But slowly over the course of weeks
So what'd you do
to
that
years,
day when you saw him?
So that day I went to bed, like couldn't sleep because I'm like, this guy just walked away and is like making threats. But I saw that he came back the next day. He was okay. Like,
Where
he didn't
was
do
this?
anything.
Came back where?
Desk.
Okay.
When Desk was over at Temple Street. So thankfully he was okay. And then we slowly just kept engaging with him. He liked to have his blood pressure checked. So we would engage him around that. We would see him on the green, just like over weeks and weeks. Sometimes he would swear at us. Sometimes we would not be able to do any work with him. But then one day I think after like probably like 6 months or more of working with him, he's like, I need my blood pressure medication. I need my metformin. And we were like, you want your medication? Okay. So that's something we can help you with. And so we were working with Phil and like walked him to Rite Aid and picked up his meds with him. And then he like internalized that, like, these people really helped me. And he talked to his friends about us and like, maybe I could work with these. We kind of broke through his toughness and were able to build this relationship with him. He started calling us his sisters. He would always look forward to our visits with him. We were able to connect him with a case manager, and he eventually got housing. He had to exit housing briefly because of some issues, but he finally got into stable housing for like the last 2 years of his life, and he's unfortunately passed. But I feel like we were the only kind of teams that would work with him and believe in him and not
I can see
not
why that
distance him.
could keep you going and how great you'd feel when that happened.
Yeah, and just seeing that how people who everyone else might not be able to tolerate and might we even had people who discharged this person or banned him from
I have
places.
a hard time dealing with people with mental illness, especially if the people in my life who, when it takes the form of being aggressive and kind of harsh to you, especially with borderline personality disorder. That's a hard thing to deal with. I salute that you guys are able not to personalize it and pursue. Phil, do you have a story recently that made a difference? That made a difference?
I kind of operate on a different world. The successes, I just do what I do, and then hopefully successes come. But I did have one that made me feel good Friday. I had a gentleman that came up to me in Fairhaven, and he was heavier than I had remembered him. But about 3 years ago, I got a call from one of my patients on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock, and they said, "Phil, can you come down? So-and-so had been shot and has 4 bullet holes, and they didn't treat his addiction, and he walked out of the ER because they were treating him with disrespect and didn't treat his medical conditions."
Wow.
And so now he's in Fairhaven, and this is one of my patients who also happens to be an advocate, because I have certain advocates that have my number, and if there's somebody really sick on the streets that they're worried about, they will call me anytime, and I'll try to help. And so I said, okay, I'll be down. So I drive down there with my medical bag, and here's this guy, and he's got gunshot wounds, through his calf and through his bullet stuck in his ankle, and so we irrigated, we cleaned up the wounds as best I could, bandaged him. I put him on several antibiotics so that he wouldn't get septic. Hopefully, the best care is in the hospital to do that stuff. There's no doubt about it, and I wish I could send him back, but there was no going back for him because he felt untreated and disrespected. But he came back to me and he said to me, he says, "Thank you for saving my life." And I didn't really save his life. There were bullet holes in his legs. He was, but
is he going to go get doctor's care or anything?
Well, this was several years ago, so he actually never did. He came back a week later and we redressed him and stuff, and he became better through the treatment we gave him in the street.
All right, we're talking to street teams members Phil Costello, Claudette Kidd, and Emma Lowe. So a lot of talk in New Haven has been about homeless encampments. We see more of them in recent years. A lot of cities in the country are dealing with what do we do with those. We one of the issues has been like whose public space is it? So on the boulevard we had a public encampment where there were concerns about the people's safety and kids, could they play soccer there? They got rid of that. They did one under a homeless underpass. You have the Union Station. Should they be asleep there? What's your folks' take on encampments? Should they be allowed? I'm sure you're the people who try to help people find housing, correct? What should we be doing about homeless encampments?
That's a tough one. Armistead, they
have the tiny, well, they already have the shelters,
home. Yeah. They're doing a great job with helping the homeless with the tiny homes, and then they have a small area where they have the tents. There's actually a hearing tonight at City Hall regarding tiny homes. I think it's a workshop actually at 6 o'clock.
There's been concern about whether those are safe. The whole building code thing, you don't want people dying like at the ghost ship if there's a fire or something.
I go there all the time.
Oh, you do? Okay, tell me about it.
They're safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're safe, and they're being fed, and they have access to the bathroom and all of that. They used to have generators there. I think the safety issue was most probably if the generators overheated because there was so many of them or whatever. So, I can understand the concern for safety and everything, but there's nowhere for these people to go. There's a lack of housing. It's a big, big issue, and Karen Du Bois-Walden, she's doing a great job with what little
Housing Authority,
what little land there is to build on. and it's going to take time. The waiting list is what? I can't remember how many thousand.
Yeah.
But basically, people are having to wait like up to 10 years to be housed, which is ridiculous.
Now, there's some people tell me, and I know this is a big challenge. I'm told, Compass is the new non-police emergency team. Do you folks work much with them? They come out there with counselors if there's someone who might otherwise have police in an incident.
I think, we have to give credit where credit is due. I'm very impressed with the Compass. The city has done some really good things, and I think Compass is one of them. I think they have a 23-hour hold shelter where the police or people like us can help divert somebody, get them in for observation, get them in if for some reason they're having an immediate crisis. And it acts kind of as a place, an intermediary place between the hospital and care. They have a beautiful facility. They have a strong team. The city has also done the Route 80 hotel, which is an amazing...
I'm hearing that you're leading to a but or no?
Well, I'm not leading to a but. I want to go back to the other thing with the encampments. And I'm going to just tell you what I've been seeing. I have been seeing that as they clear these encampments, I have been seeing the people... either they go back to the same exact place or they get pushed into neighborhoods now where they were trying to be apart and to be, and to keep safe distances. Now they're sleeping in people's backyards.
So should we designate a place where people can go? Should we designate an encampment? No, they've done that in Michigan. And does that then draw people regionally? Because aren't there a lot of people who come from other cities?
There's always a lot of people that go back and forth. If you do it, I wouldn't suggest setting up a place that was like a huge, giant place. I would suggest maybe in each region of New Haven, maybe a small area, because once you get the more you put these encampments together, you get you get people that might potentially not get along. So you're better off with, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 tents.
Like, should they have dismantled the 4
area.
tents in Edgewood Park last year? Did that make sense? Let people sleep there overnight?
I think that there's places like that which probably make a lot more sense. I also see the point where when the city has somebody that's right in the middle of the road, right on the side of the road where they're trying to build business and stuff, and then the people keep it really messy and it's very visible. There needs to be a balance. So the city needs to be able to clear certain camps, but there also should be a designated place where people could go. So you say you can't stay here, but there's a place. We're going to give you a shelter bed, or we're going to give you a thing in Route 80. But if you're too stressed to do that,
yeah, some people don't
there's
want
another
it, right?
area.
Like one thing
You're
I'm
right.
hearing about Compass is like Compass gives everybody a chance to get help.
Yeah.
That some people who are especially addicted to drugs don't want the help. Correct? They want to continue using drugs.
They
or is that
want
not true?
to. They're not.
Like to see that.
Safe injection is a good alternative. I think it keeps people alive. I think one of the big fears about safe injection sites is it's going to, like you said, it's going to draw people regionally. That's not the case. They can buy a bag of fentanyl for $5. Okay, they're not going to spend $2 to get on a bus to go from Fairhaven to the Green, or go from the Green to Fairhaven or to the Hill. That's not going to happen. So if you're going to do these things, they got to be small and in each neighborhood, because you're only going to get the people in that region that's going to walk over there to do it. And I think that's a huge misnomer that you're going to pull people in for that. That's absolutely not going to happen.
So can I ask you folks before we wrap up? It's so great hearing your stories. It's so glad you guys are out there. Something that you coming up, new plans, what you're up to next at each of your places, Claude. Maybe start with Claudette. Something new you're working on, what you're up to next.
Well, we're doing a Thanksgiving campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to talk about something positive that we're doing.
Yep.
So with the Thanksgiving campaign, we're looking for volunteers for the event. And with the volunteers, they can actually see what we're doing and what we're all about. So a lot of people question what we're doing. So we encourage them to come in and see. So if people do want to volunteer and see what we're all about, they can get in touch with us at deskct.org//Thanksgiving or volunteer at deskct.org. And they will be in touch with Lewis or Ali, who are great people, very personable. And come join us and see what we do and get involved. You'll be surprised. And you'll love it.
Deskct.org.
Yes.
And Emma, tell me what people can do to help with your street team.
So some of the things that we've been doing is trying to expand. We're the only street psychiatry team in Connecticut, and we'd love there to be more street psychiatry teams. We've been networking through a lot of Phil's help with networking through the state, and we put on a conference every year, mostly through Phil's leadership, which is like a Connecticut Healthcare for the Homeless conference in June, and linking people all together to try to build networks and expand. And we've even made contacts nationally and internationally to try to spread the impact of street psychiatry and allow people to implement programs around the country and beyond. And just, I guess, for our particular needs, we rely, similar to Claudette and Phil, on a lot of engagement items like basic needs, things like tents, sleeping bags, and we can always use those kinds of things. Bottled water.
Where can people donate that?
The easiest probably is through the CMHC Foundation. That's how we manage our donations that way.
Great.
CMHC
And we'll be
Foundation.
looking for donations at our Thanksgiving event too. We'll be looking for tents, food. It'll all be listed on the website.
Excellent. And Phil, what about with the Hill Health?
So for donations, we like to take sleeping bags, tents, socks, underwear. Nobody wants used underwear. So if you guys could get us some new underwear for the homeless, that would be great. We use the Amazon wish list, and you can find that on the website as well.
Which website?
Cornell Scott homeless website.
What is the website called? Or just if you...
I think it's just Cornell Scott, and then you look under the homeless department.
All right.
But I'd like to just say that Emma's team is amazing. They save lives every day. A lot of times people kind of focus on our team, but this is why I think it's great that we showcase Claudette. I have seen her kick ass out there. Pardon my language. I don't know if I can say that on the radio.
You can on this radio.
But they're
as long
she's
as it's
just out.
ass.
Yeah, she's just out there. Really getting people taken care of and doing it with a passion.
Thank you.
And it's about a team. My team is the team that I work with is amazing. They are very compassionate and very street savvy, very strong. They keep me from getting fired every day.
But you're fired up.
Now
You're
I'm
all fired up.
Yeah.
Fired up.
They keep me from getting fired, though.
We are so lucky to have all of you in New Haven. Thanks for sharing the stories today, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
You guys
us.
care and you make a difference.
Thank you so much.
Claudette Kidd, Phil Costello, and Emma Lowe are our guests today. Help them out. Go to the web. Go to deskct.org. Go to CMHC Foundation and the Cornell Scott Health Center's homeless section. I want to thank Doreen Chernecki for producing today's show. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It'd Feel to Be Free from their disc, A Plea for Peace. I want to wish people who are celebrating it a Happy New Year, and fly free with us all day, all night, and all week long at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.